DEOLA, ARIYO, and please correct me if I do make any errors. And any con no shelu. Did I get it?
Actually, okay, I'm not muted. Yeah, you were close.
Okay, I was close. Okay. Yeah, she's a sought after reinvention and branding strategist, and also a speaker who specializes in helping female experts, entrepreneurs, and leaders, helping them to build their personal brand, and also early stage startups, businesses, to ultimately grow into profitable brands, high growth companies that then attract their dream clients and partners with ease. She has over 15 years of experience. She's worked with empowering, that's so impactful, over 1,000 young females, wow, with a heavy focus on personal development, leadership, and youth entrepreneurship, particularly by speaking to youth across the nation through her nonprofit, the 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 Gems, the Gems Inc., and her most recent program, the Next Gentrepreneur. Wow, that sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. It's now the #1 global online academy and subscription box company for the next generation of girl entrepreneurs, leaders, and innovators between the ages of 11 and 18. She has a background in software engineering, wow, business and women leadership, and she combines her unique experience in training individuals and organizations on the power of personal branding, business strategy, strategic partnerships, and coaching and consulting. She attended Arizona State University and the Yale School of Management. Yes, you see why all the young people have to read now. Ms. Adeola has been featured on ABC7, Good Morning Washington, repeatedly, and also Fox 45 in Baltimore. This her valuable insight goes a long way, and she's also been featured. She's been seen in Washington Examiner, CEO Kick magazine, and several publications. She'll share her social media platforms with us. And I just want to say we are truly blessed to have you this morning. Thank you so much. And over to you. You're warmly welcome.
All right. Thank you. I'm really honored to be here today. Can you all hear me? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, because I had to put a special headset on just to make sure that I'm clear. So I want to first of all thank Stellar and the team for putting an amazing event together for the youth. As you all know, the youth has a special place in my heart. And I do know that one of the greatest things in life we could do is to look back and give back to the next generation. So I'm so glad to be here today. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you all, sharing. And I'm hoping that this topic that I want to talk about today would apply to both our youth and even some adults. I can just kind of give a little caveat right now that I made the presentation very youth friendly. So the adults bear with me, but I'm sure that you'll be able to go home today with some sort of value. Am I going to be able to share my screen? Let's see.
Yes.
Okay, good. In 1 second. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. Can you all see what I see? It says personal brand as a youth. If you all can see it, can you please type 1 in the window, in the chat window, or if you want to just kind of unmute and let me know before I go into it?
No, it just says you started sharing screen, but it hasn't come through yet. So we just need a couple
Okay. All right, thanks. Can you see it now or no?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, it's telling me I'm sharing my screen. So let's see. Let me stop and try it again. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. I think are you sharing your entire desktop or just one screen?
Just one. And it's telling me that I'm sharing my screen. So let's see. What do you see right now? Do you see just me or do you see my desktop?
No, we see a blank screen that says DEOLA has started sharing screen. But nothing. Oh, now we see it.
Oh,
and then
I just stopped it. Okay, let me go back there. Technology. Hopefully we'll give it a few seconds. I just want to be sure that you can see it before I go into it. Can you see it now?
not yet. Yeah, whatever you did, don't stop it. Whatever you did the last time to make it work.
Okay, I'll just skip my hands. I'll take my hands off. I guess in the meantime, let me just kind of get to know, if you don't mind, I'd like to know if you've heard the word personal brand before. Can you type 1 in the chat window? If you've never heard about the word or you have no clue what it is, maybe you've heard it, but you have no clue what it is, can you type 2 in the chat window?
Now it's sharing now. So now
Okay, good. So you can see my orange screen, right?
Yeah, so I see personal branding as a youth.
Okay, great. All right, so that's good. So let's see what everyone is saying. 1, if you heard about it. If you've never heard about personal brand, or you've heard it, but you have no clue what this means. Can I have you type 2? Okay. All right, so we have a couple of ones, and then we have, I can see 1, 2. So that's good. So I'm hoping that today, whether you've heard about it before, or you haven't, you have no clue what it is, or you've heard it and you're thinking, what does it have to do with me? I'm a youth, I'm a young person. Why do I need to care about what a personal brand is? I'm hoping that today you'll be able to take 1 or 2 things today from it. And you'll also be able to see why it's important for you to build your personal brand, even if you're 10, right? I tell a lot of the girls in my program that everyone has a personal brand. So just a matter of what you're putting out there. So let's kind of go into it today. What we'll talk about today is a couple of things. So we'll talk about what a personal brand is, right? What does that even mean? And how does that apply to me as a youth? The second thing I would like to talk about today is the importance of a personal brand. The third is steps on how to start to build your personal brand. If we talked about what a personal brand is, we've shared about why you should start to build your personal brand and the importance of it. Then I won't leave you hanging. I'll make sure I'll share a few tips and a few steps on how you can start to build your personal brand today. And then obviously we'll go into some questions, okay? I like the session to be very interactive, which means that feel free to ask questions. I'm hoping someone can kind of monitor the chat window, the chat box, so that way if I don't see it, you can actually catch my attention and let me know. The goal today is not for me to speak at you. The goal is for us to kind of dialogue, okay? So if anything goes over your head or you're like, okay, Ms. Adiola, can you pause it right there and let me know I didn't understand what you meant? Please feel free to interrupt me. I'm totally fine with that. So let me just kind of give a little bit of introduction about myself. Why am I talking about personal brand? Who am I? I know that you've heard from Mr. Malala regarding my bio, but who am I outside of the bio? I'm Adiola. I live in Maryland, which is about 20 minutes from Washington, D.C., for those of you that are familiar with the capital of the United States. My career journey started about 22 years ago when I got out of college as a software engineer. but then I got into entrepreneurship a few years afterwards. And like most of you that are youth, I was very shy and I was very introverted. Most people that meet me today might not realize that, or they kind of have a hard time believing that I was extremely shy. I was so shy. I mean, right now I'm wearing glasses because I won't tell my age, but I'm wearing glasses now because I need it. But I can tell you now that years ago, over 20 years ago, I had some power bold glasses. And what does that mean? It meant that because I was so shy, when I had to go for interviews, a job interview or internship, I felt like I had to have something that I can put on that will be some kind of barrier between myself and whoever it is that I'm speaking to give me some more confidence, right? So I'm just saying this to let you know that it doesn't matter where you are right now as a youth, whether you're introverted or you're shy, trust me, I was there before and I totally understand where you are. And I can tell you how, by being intentional about tapping into what's unique about you, your strength as a person, it'll help you overcome whatever lack of confidence or shyness or whatever it is that you have, right? So as I said earlier, I studied computer engineering as my bachelor's. I worked with that for the past 18, 20 years on and off. I dabbled into entrepreneurship earlier in my 20s. And then eventually later, I got into consulting, not only just in IT, but also helping other people to launch profitable brands, right? Over 16 years ago, I launched a nonprofit here in the Washington, D.C. area to just kind of mentor young girls because I was very passionate about teenage girls, especially. I love the boys because I have 3 boys, right? Because people always say, why just girls? But because I'm a female, so I can understand what young girls go through because I was once a teenager myself. And then a few years ago, we launched an online academy, like Mr. Malala shared, and that's been one of the greatest things I feel I've done so far in terms of my legacy, to building a global community of young girl entrepreneurs, leaders, and innovators. So I'm really excited about that. And I'll tie all this together in case you're wondering how is all that tied together. Remember I talked about being extremely shy and not being able to keep eye contact when I was even doing a job interview that I really needed, right? I mean, it's a different thing if you're shy and you don't have to talk because you don't need it, right? I had to talk. I had to go for interviews because I wanted a job, right? And so going from there to now being able to speak on stages, sharing with people, having my own community, having platforms. And as you can see in some of the pictures on the screen, I've done, I can't remember how many TV interviews that I've done over the years. And I'm just trying to encourage you. And I'm using the story not to brag, but to kind of let you know that everyone starts from somewhere. Outside of all this, one of my greatest joys in heart is my 3 boys. I have 3 handsome boys. I was going to share the pictures, but the pictures that I have are very old of them. And my oldest is almost as tall as me, so he would not appreciate if I show his younger pictures. So that's kind of, I have a husband and I have 3 boys. So that's it about me. And like I said, being able to be intentional about my personal brand and about how I show up in the world has made a huge difference in where I am today. And that's why I'm passionate about sharing that with you, right? And I'll tie it back to why we're talking about this to the youth. I don't know how many years ago, I'll say maybe a couple of decades ago, we didn't even have social media, right? So that wasn't an option. We didn't have anything that was called Gen Z back then, right? And so there wasn't such a high need for building your personal brand online, right? But now, as we can tell, things have changed. The perception of people about you is very key, because a lot of times now, when you want to apply for positions, whether it's an internship or an actual job, when you're out of high school, out of college, one of the first places that people go to right now is to go search you up. And I know that I was part of the interviewing for my company back in the days. And I know that when we had a lot of job applications, believe it or not, outside of the resume that we had in our hands, one of the things that we wanted to know about this young candidate that was applying is to see if we have an idea of who this person is. So guess what? We'll go on social media to go check them out. If we see something totally crazy that we feel might jeopardize the integrity or the brand of the company, I'm going to be very honest, they might not say it, we won't hire them, right? We won't. So that's why I'm very, and I can tell you that we've seen so many smart young people, brilliant, intelligent young candidates. But if always is crazy stuff online about them, that automatically gives them like a thumbs down. And so that's why I'm here today to talk to you as a youth about personal branding, okay? So a little enough about me, let's go into why we're here today. So I'd like to kind of just ask these questions real quick. For you, if you want to share a few people that stand out to you, either in your community or globally, can you type that in the chat window? Let's see. And if someone can help us man the Facebook Live, right? If there are comments there, because we don't want to kind of forget about our community on Facebook right now. So if someone can look into what's being typed there and share that here, that would be amazing. So let's just kind of talk about it. Do you have anyone that stands out to you, either even in your school or maybe in your local community? I know that this is a community that we have here from people from different places. So let's see, let's share that. Okay, your teachers, that's good. Okay, who else? Okay, because of time, I'll go on and I'll share a few people. Who can tell me who this lady is on the screen? Have you seen her before? Oh, actually, what kind of question is that? I already have a name there. So, like we all know, she's Oprah, right? And I can promise you that most people, whether you're very young or you're more matured, you probably come across her name before. Or maybe you might have seen her on TV, or you've seen her magazine, or you've heard about some of the philanthropic work that she does, right? So Oprah is one of the most popular people, I'll say, right, that we know in our lifetime, whether you agree to everything she does or not, but you can attest to the fact that she's made a huge impact in her world, right? The second person is Malala. I don't know if anyone has heard about her. She's made a huge difference in her country. You know, she's gone through a lot. She's an activist. I can't remember how old she is right now, but she's a teenager, right? So and I decided to show her a picture to let you see that you don't have to be an adult for you to make an impact in your community, right? So here's some examples. So let's get into what a personal brand is. If you want to kind of tell me what you think a personal brand is, feel free to type that in the chat window. What is a personal brand? Does anyone want to kind of take a stab at it and let me know what they think a personal brand is? And let me see if I can see the chat window. Okay, so you might have heard some big words about what a personal brand is. You might have thought it's something really extremely major, right? But I can tell you in very simple terms that your personal brand is impression and perception that people have of you. Wait a minute, and I can tell you one thing, what people say. Some people get excited when they hear this definition, and some people go like, oh my goodness, does that mean that I'm not in control of what that is? Yeah, I can see Dote TF said it has to do with your uniqueness. You're absolutely right. That's one of the things that make your personal brand. But in general terms, if we were to think about it in a high level way, it's the impression and perception of people about you. That's really what it is, right? So think of your personal brand as your digital or intangible resume. So for those of you, I'm sure that those of you that are of age know what a resume is. Pretty much it means that, when you want to apply for a job, I know things are different a little bit now, but a resume pretty much means, a document, a paper, where you list all your strengths, your uniqueness, your, I guess your job experience, right? What skills and talents you have, and why this company should hire you, right? If you have a company, that could be your company deck, like a deck that talks about the company capability. It talks about what you do, what your strengths are. But because we're not talking about your company or business right now. We're talking about you as a person, right? So think about your personal brand as your digital and intangible resume. The reason why I use the word digital and intangible resume is that you can't touch it. At least if you look at this picture here, your resume, you can actually touch, is like a paper, kind of like, you can actually see it, whether it's a document that you send, whether you send your resume to a company via email or you have it printed out, at least you can actually touch it. So it's tangible. Your personal brand is not necessarily tangible. You can touch it, right? And I use the word digital because we'll talk about that in a minute, right? Like I said earlier, it's a social media age. So since we talked about it's a digital and an intangible resume, so okay, now let's kind of tie this together, right? Let's see what does that mean to you and how can you control what that is?
Some students say that it has to do with their uniqueness,
Yes.
or has to do with you being special.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Your personal brand has a lot to do with what your uniqueness, your talents, your skills, who you are as a person, your values, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So you're absolutely right. I'm glad that you actually have that covered, yeah. So I kind of felt a little in my spirit to come back here. And even though I have this somewhere down the presentation, but I want to kind of hone in here that even though your personal brand has to do with the impression that people have of you, you don't want to go around now, start being a people pleaser. That's not the goal, okay? I just felt like I should talk about it right now before we go into it, even though I'm going to address that later on. And the reason why I said that is because as we heard from our amazing speaker that went right before me, I know that as a youth, there's a lot of anxiety already, wanting to fit in, wanting to be accepted. Social media has put a lot of pressure on most youth now. So I wanted to kind of point this out that even while you want to talk about how to build a personal brand, you don't want to be caught up now with being inauthentic, right? Or like, oh my goodness, how are people going to perceive me? I better make sure that I present myself in a certain way, so that way people can think highly of me. That's not the goal, right? But at the same time, I will be doing you a disservice to not really talk about what it means, okay? So I just felt like I should pinpoint that, and I should make that very clear, that the goal is not to go around now to have more anxiety or be stressed or be going around like, oh my God, what does that person think about me? What does that, no. At the end of the day, it's not about what everyone thinks about you. It's about what people that matter, and I'll talk about what that means in a minute, think about you, okay? Not everyone, not all your friends or people on social media, that's not the point, okay? And I see someone said that I think it's your way of standing out as a person. Absolutely right. Yep, you're correct. Okay. So remember, your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So remember that. And more important, let's discover why, okay? So in case you're wondering, why should I worry about building a strong personal brand as a young person? What does that even matter to me? I'm still young. I'm still in middle school or high school or maybe college, or maybe you're still in 5th grade. Why should I even start thinking about what that means? Or why should I worry myself about what that is, right? Let's talk about that in a minute. As a young leader, as a youth leader, your personal brand is one of the keys to your success professionally. I'm going to be very honest about that. Because you're here today because you're a youth leader, or you're striving to become a leader, right? So your personal brand is actually one of the keys to building, to being successful professionally, right? So now let's go back and talk about why you should build a strong personal brand. We talked about what it means. We've just talked about why you should why you should work on your personal brand and build it as a youth, right? So now let's talk about why. Let's talk about a few reasons why you definitely want to be intentional about building a strong personal brand. Opportunities, that's the number one reason. Having a great personal brand gives you almost endless opportunities. Because remember I talked about earlier, it's the perception of people about you. And we also talked about how it's what people say in the room when you're not there. So let me give you an example. And you can talk to your parents about it. If you have mentors, ask them about this. Nowadays, in this age and day, a lot of opportunities are made by who you know as a person, right? So let's say people know that, okay, maybe there's an opportunity, maybe like you're very good in, I'm trying to look for an example now. Maybe you're very good in coding. That's what you stand for. You're really good into STEM. You know, you're known for that. You're great at it. And people know you for that. When an opportunity comes, maybe they're talking about this in the guidance counselor office or the principal's office in school, or maybe in the community where you are, they're talking about, let's kind of put a list of some young people that are good in coding that can actually come and help us teach, or that can be a speaker, or maybe perhaps you're very good in drawing. That's what you're an artist, right? Or maybe you're good with instruments, right? But if people know that that's what you're good at, when an opportunity comes, without you even knowing that the opportunity exists, your name will stand out because people already know that's what you're good at. Does that make sense? So it helps you, it gives you opportunities. It creates endless opportunities for you when you build a strong personal brand. And let me be very honest now, a lot of times now, most jobs people get jobs now, not necessarily by going online to I don't know if monster.com even still exists, or maybe it's Dice or whatever it is that people go, whatever website people go on right now to apply for jobs. Most people don't go through all that process anymore sometimes. It could be someone else knowing that you're good in this thing and you have a skill set that they're looking for in their company. If they know you're good at it, they'll put your name to the HR department and they'll reach out to you, right? So I want you to kind of, please, if nothing else, remember this. Having a strong personal brand creates endless opportunities, can create endless opportunities for you. The second reason is also your expertise and reputation. It allows you to showcase yourself as an expert in whatever your niche is. Kind of tied to what I just talked about earlier. When you're building your personal brand, it helps you to showcase what you're good at. And please believe me that you don't have to wait till you're in your 20s or 30s to start showcasing what you're good at, right? This is the era of young people making an impact, not only in your community, but even in the globe. So don't think, oh my gosh, I can only draw this little thing. Or maybe you're very good, like I said, you're very good with arts. You do amazing work, but you think because I'm still young, let me sort of like not talk about it, or don't let me showcase it because I'm young. No, this is the era for you to showcase your talents and skills, because you never know whose life you can actually impact with your strength, right? And like I said earlier, if there are opportunities out there, if people don't know that you're good at it, they wouldn't think about you. So it's not for you to go around outside like, being loud all over the place. That's not the point. We'll talk about how that works. But I'm just here to encourage you that one of the reasons why you want to build your personal brand as a young person is because it helps you to showcase your expertise, your gifts, and your talents. Okay, I'm looking at the time. The other thing is that it helps you to create a digital resume. It gives you the opportunity to build what your virtual resume is, like we talked about earlier, right? It also allows you to make more impact. When you have a strong personal brand, people pay more attention to you, even if you're 11 or 21 or 30. It gives you more opportunities for you to make more impact. I talked about Malala earlier, right? Because she's been able to build her personal brand as an activist, right? A lot of times, people that actually like her or like what she stands for, if a platform is looking for someone to talk to other young girls, they'll probably choose her because they know that she has a voice. And because she has a voice, right, more people are bound to pay attention to her. So, and I'm not saying this because I'm not saying that you necessarily have to be on a stage or be known globally. It can start from your classroom where you are. If your perception among your peers, if the perception I meant of you among your peers, among your teachers, among your professors are good, it gives you an opportunity to make more impact. And the reason why I'm saying this is because as a leader, since we know this platform is for youth leaders, one of the goals or one of the characteristics of a leader is to make impact. That's it. It's not just for you to be a leader because of the title, but it's really because you can serve others and you can make impact in your local community or in the world at large, okay? We talked about this earlier, overall success. A good personal brand helps you become more successful. And I'm sure you can agree with me now based on all the different reasons that I've given today. So let's talk about this for a minute. Did you know this? Because you might be thinking, I'll worry about personal brand later. I don't think it's, even though Ms. Adiola shared all the benefits of it, I don't even think I want to think about it now. I don't have a personal brand and I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'll worry about it years later. So let me I don't want to burst your bubble a little bit, but did you know this? Everyone has a personal brand. Every single person that's hearing my voice right now, you have a personal brand. It might not be called a personal brand. In fact, years ago, I don't even think the word personal brand was thrown around. It wasn't, but it's always existed. So everyone has one. The key thing is that are you intentional about your personal brand, right? Because everyone has a perception about you, whether it's good or bad, right? So the key thing is that are you being intentional about your personal brand? Yeah, you already have one. You already have a personal brand. So my question for you today is your personal brand serving you or is it hurting you? Ouch, and I know, yeah. Is it serving you or is it hurting you? So I'm going to share some tips on how to build your personal brand today. We talked about the benefits. We talked about why you should have one, irrespective of your age. But let me kind of go into sharing some tips on how you can start to build your personal brand starting today. The first thing is your values. You want to be so clear on what your values are. Like, what are your core non-negotiable values? Is it integrity? Is it leadership? Is it community? Is it honesty? Whatever it is it advocacy? Like whatever it is, what is your values? You want to be clear about it. And your values doesn't have to be your best friend's values. It doesn't have to be your sister or your brother or even your parents. You want to be clear about what your personal values are. Because once you know what your values are, I promise you, it'll drive everything you do, right? Your core values would help you to make better decisions in life as you grow, right? It'll also help you to kind of narrow down what sort of projects or what sort of programs you get yourself aligned with. So that's the number one way you can start to build your personal brand. You want to be very clear about what your values are. The second thing is a word that, I know the word might sound a little bit big, but I promise you it's not really, is that you want to be very clear about what your unique value proposition is. So if you have a pen and paper, please write this down. Your unique value proposition, because guess what? If you can kind of hone in on what this word is, and I want to give you an assignment to dive into this later on. If you want to share with me, I'll leave my social media handle later to work on what this is, right? I know one of the activities that we did in my program with our young girls, you got to be clear on what this is, because this only doesn't help you to drive you as a person, but it also helps you when you want to pitch your idea. Let's say you have an invention or something, you want to pitch your idea, or you're giving a presentation, or you're applying for a job, or you're applying for a college application or a scholarship, or whatever it is. You want to be very clear of what your unique value proposition is. So what does that really mean? like, okay, what does this big word really mean? What it really means is that what makes you unique. And someone talked about that earlier, and I was really excited to see that. She talked about personal brand is one of, she said, she said, it's kind of what makes you unique. I'm assuming that's what she said, right? So that's really what it is. That what makes you unique? What unique value do you offer or you provide to your community and to the world at large? What do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known for that young man or young lady that actually is an advocate? And she's really, she's against anything that has to do with injustice, right? Or do you want to be known for that person that wants to give back to the helpless or people that are in need in your community, right? Or maybe you want to be known for loving to read, believing in literacy, and wanting to help other young people like yourself to really value literacy at a young age, right? So kind of start thinking about that, because of time. Normally I would have given you some time to write that down and share, but because of time and I want to make sure that I go over this presentation, I would like to encourage you to write this down and please go back to it later on. And this can change over time. Your values or what makes you unique as a 16-year-old, for example, will change when you're 22 and could also change when you're 40, right? It changes over a period of time. But the key thing is that you want to be clear about this at every point in time in your life, right? So think about it, what makes you unique. The third thing is that you want to start building your digital footprint. So this applies for the younger adults now. If you're 9, for example, I wouldn't say you should worry about this. I don't even want you to start building a digital footprint because you're too young to be online, right? But if you're a teenager or maybe you're in college, for example, right? Or, I wouldn't put an age stamp per se, but you want to make sure that you start to work on building your digital footprint. It's almost even better for you not to have anything online than for you to have something that's crazy, like I said earlier, online, because the internet never forgets. In my background in IT, even if you go back and erase things that are online, it's not totally gone. It's somewhere, right? It's somewhere in the cloud. And it's just a matter of time. If people want to bring it up, they can find it. So you want to be very intentional about what you put online, whether it's on social media. If you like to use like crazy words, hopefully you don't. But even if you're working on that, social media is not where you should, online is not where you should come and showcase that. If you get into habits that are not necessarily serving you, you don't want to put it online. And most youth, I tell youth sometimes, they're into cyberbullying or, calling people out and all this culture cancel. I tell people that it follows you. It follows you for life. So you want to be very intentional about what is out there online about you, right? And so also another way you can also build your digital footprint is also, if you like to write, you can have a blog where you share your ideas or thoughts about something. You can start building your thought leadership on a particular topic, right? If you are in the process whereby you would start to look for jobs or internships later on, right? You might want to consider having a LinkedIn page. I could give you an example. I got a message on LinkedIn one time from some young lady. She was actually 13 or 14. I was so surprised, I'm going to be very honest, that she had a LinkedIn account, but it's managed by her parents. But what was so impressive to me was that she highlighted everything she does in school on her LinkedIn page. She was a student leader. She was involved in so many organizations. She speaks in different places. So things that she does, where she volunteers and that sort of thing, she had it on her LinkedIn account that her parents helped her manage, but she was kind of involved with it. And that was quite impressive when she reached out to us for some opportunity, right? And so I thought, like, wow, I never thought about a 13, 14-year-old having one. And I'm not saying that you have to have one. If you're that young, check in with your parents, because you might not need to have one right now. But if you're old enough to have one, you can check out LinkedIn, especially if you're already looking into getting an internship or maybe a job or that sort of thing, right? So this is some ways you can actually build your digital footprint. One of the ways, like I said earlier, make sure there's nothing crazy about you online. If you hang out with friends that like to snap every time and take pictures of everything that you're doing, make sure that it's not posted and you're tagged, if that makes sense. The second thing is that you also want to start putting things out there, start putting content out there. If you have some amazing artwork that you do, you can showcase it online by creating a blog, or if you're old enough to have a social media account, okay? Articles, you can be a contributing writer to some of the magazines that are for young people. Like I said earlier, the internet never forgets. So make sure that you do that. And I always like to give this exercise to my adults, right? I tell them every now and then, go and Google your name and see what's out there. You might be amazed that something might be out there about you. So you're in control of what's the narrative that's out there about you to some extent. So every now and then, as an adult, I encourage people to go Google your name and see what comes up. So that way, if you do not like what's out there, you can start working on changing that. Because like I said earlier, a lot of times when you apply for positions or opportunities, people go check you out first before they even get to meet with you. So do not be deceived that the first time you show up for a job interview is the first time that you're meeting that person. I promise you they've checked you out already online. So I want to encourage you to start building your digital footprint. That's one of the ways in which you can build a personal brand. And I want to stop. The last one I want to share with you, so I don't overwhelm you all, is to network. Network. You're not too young to start to network. You know, the popular saying, I'm not sure if you all say it as a youth, but that your network is your net worth. And I promise you that holds weight. That means everything. So you want to make sure that you start to network with like-minded people, because networking increases who you know, and reputation is who knows you. So when you network, you're getting to know more people, you're getting to know more amazing people, but you don't want to stop there. You also not want these people to know about you. And some of the ways that could be done is, like I said earlier, the digital footprint. Be very clear about your core values, showcase your expertise and gifts and talent, and let the right people know. This is not the time that if you're good at something, your guidance counselor in school should know about it, your teachers should know about it. It's not bragging, it's just that you're putting yourself out there, because you never know when the opportunity would come, okay? So let me kind of go over that real quick. What we talked about is that some of the ways you can build your personal brand, after we talked about all the benefits and the reasons why you should do that, is number one, declaring your values. We talked about your unique value proposition, be able to define and articulate what makes you unique and what unique value you offer in your community or the world. You also want to build your digital footprint and make sure nothing crazy is out there online about you, okay? You also want to network. And you can network at the level where you are right now. Level with your peers, level with your classmates, network with your classmates, network with your teachers, your professors, people in your community. Start to network, okay? So remember, like I said earlier, your personal brand is the impression and the perception that people have of you. In fact, I want you to kind of say this over and over again, that it becomes like a second nature. You know, when you're young, and well, maybe not in your era. I know when I was young and they were teaching us multiplication, not like right now. They would tap me sometimes if I have a test and be like, what's 2 times 7? I'm like, 14. What's 6 times 9? I'm like, oh my God, 54, right? That's how I want you to know the definition. So that way, this would drive what you put out there about you. Like, you know, what people feel and say about you when you're not in the room. That's another thing I want you to remember. What people feel and say about you when you're not in the room. So, real quick, the goal is not to be inauthentic. Okay, that's not the goal. I want us to be clear about that. And the goal is not for you to go around being a people pleaser. People can sense, they can smell inauthenticity from far, 10 miles away. So that's another point. Because at the end of the day, you want people to be attracted to you or what you do based on who you really are. If you kind of create an inauthentic perception about yourself, you can't keep up with that. And that's not a goal. You don't want to be like that. So that's not the goal. Be yourself, but just make sure that you're very intentional about what you put out there about yourself. Okay. So I like to always stop on this note. That if you were to not think about it like, okay, I get all those things you're saying about values and your value proposition. I get the fact that you're saying that it's very important for me to have a personal brand as a young person. What does that even really, I mean, how do I kind of put all that together? So here's it. Your goal, one of your goals also, is to bridge the gap between who you really are and the perception of others. So let me give an example. Do you have that cousin, maybe cousin or family member that when you get together for maybe Thanksgiving, you have Thanksgiving dinner, and you know, everybody in the family know, Uncle Jimmy is one of the most troublesome uncle ever, or maybe it's a cousin, not even an uncle, that, oof, you know they have it. They're a handful, let me put it that way. And then they're sitting on the dining table during dinner, during Thanksgiving, and they're sharing about how maybe somebody says something about them, and they're letting you, and they're sharing with everybody that, hey, you guys know how I am. I'm a very kind person. I'm a person of integrity. I'm very humble. And you're thinking like, wait a minute, are you kidding? Is it the same person? Because in your mind, you're thinking, no, that's not what we think about you, right? So you don't want to be like that Uncle Jimmy, whereby who you really are doesn't match the perception that people have of you. You're not going to be going out there trying to control people's perception. That's not the goal. But you want to make sure that you put the best version of yourself out there. If you want to be known for something, let it be known that this is what you stand for. I stand for honesty. I stand for advocacy. I stand for justice. I stand for all those things, right? Let people know that that's what you stand for. So your goal is to bridge the gap. If there's a wide gap between who you really are and what people are saying about you, try to close the gap as much as you can. And if you follow some of the steps that I shared with you earlier, that's a way for you to be able to bridge that gap. And in case you're wondering, I get it, but why do I still want to do this? Remember the goal, and I know that most of you are probably Christians based on the organization itself. And even if you're not, you're meant to be the salt of the world, right? You're meant to be the light in this world. And one of the ways you're being a light is by attracting people to you so you can impact them, right? Think about a dark room. When a little bulb shows up, it changes the room from being dark to this room that's lit up, right? That's your goal in life, right? To be the light of the world. And one of the ways you can do that is to attract people and opportunities to you so you can make more impact, you can do more good in the world. Because if you do good, if you have opportunities that place you in certain positions, then people listen to you more. So I just kind of wanted to mention that so you can tie that and see, okay, it's not only because it's about me alone, but it's also about making a difference in the community, on the world, right? So here are a few things that I want you to reflect on. And I'm going to go over this real quick. And I can feel free to share this. If you guys want to get this slides, I'll leave my social media handle. So that way you can ask me for it and I'll send it to you. Because I'm looking at the time. I think I have 1 minute left. Is to list 1 or 2 of your personal values. Right? Here's some homework that I'm giving you. List 1 or 2 of your core personal values. The second thing is that you also want to think about this question. What do I want to be known for in terms of the value that I offer my community? The third thing is that what is currently holding me back in showcasing my authentic self. Because I can talk about this all day long. You're the only one that knows what holds you back is lack of confidence that I shared about earlier, that I kind of struggled with when I was a teenager. I was very smart as a teenager, and I'm going to be very honest about that, or even in college. But the lack of confidence sometimes did not allow me to get certain opportunities because I wouldn't speak up, right? So I had to work on that, right? I'm still very introverted because being an introvert and shyness is not the same thing. When you're shy, it's really a lack of confidence. When you're an introvert, you can be very confident. It just means that you like to, you get your energy by being alone sometimes, right? You derive energy or you fuel yourself by having some me time. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So whatever it is that's actually holding you back, I want you to kind of write that down and start working on it, because I can talk about the importance of personal brand all day long, but if you don't handle and you don't start working on some of the weaknesses or things that you like to kind of overcome so you can actually be able to showcase yourself in the best version of yourself, it wouldn't kind of work out. So I want to encourage you to kind of be very honest with yourself. You don't have to share this with anyone, right? But be very clear, be very honest with yourself, and write down what is holding you back currently so you can start working on that. The next question is, what are 3 steps? This is a question I want you to ask yourself. What are 3 steps that I will take today to start building my personal brand? Out of everything I shared today, and maybe you have some other ideas that came like, oh my gosh, I can do this, right? So write that down. What are 3 steps that I will take today to start building my personal brand? And I think that's it for today. I know I rushed through the presentation, but I'm really hoping that you're able to take 1 or 2 things from this today. So I want to open up for questions if there's still time. So can you let me know if I can take 1 or 2 questions, or if we're over time? And before I do that, let me kind of just say this. Building a stronger, profitable personal brand is not a sprint, and it's not something that happens overnight. So don't try to start working towards perfection right now. That's not the goal. So allow time. You know, it takes time. And like I said, you continue to build your personal brand throughout your lifetime. So don't get overwhelmed like, oh my goodness, Ms. ARIYO shared this, and you go crazy and you're overwhelmed. No, that's not the goal. So know that it's not a sprint, and it'll evolve time over time. Okay, and lastly, you have what it takes. You totally have what it takes. You're a leader, you're an innovator, you're the light of the world. So you absolutely have what it takes. There are people out there that only you are meant to serve. There are opportunities out there that has your name on it, right? So you have what it takes to start to build an amazing personal brand. And I always like to say this, that leaders are developed and they're not born. So they're not, I mean, people are not just born, and when you see a new baby and like, oh, this baby is a leader, right? Leaders are developed over a period of time. So remember that when you start to kind of get a little bit overwhelmed. And so here's my social media handle. I'm ARIYO Inspires everywhere, in LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So if you want to connect with me, you want to share something that you've learned today, or you want to get a copy of the slide, or just share whatever the assignment is with me, connect with this organization, or you can kind of follow me and connect with me on social media. And that's it for today. So I want to turn it over back to our moderator, our team, like I said, either for questions or of course to move on to the next presentation.
Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful talk with us. I think the just an idea of personal branding is just so important in, in today's world, where the social media and the internet remembers everything. I think that at least when I was growing up, we had the opportunity to make more mistakes, but nobody remembered, right? And so
Yes.
in some sense, I empathize with the youth, but it also brings up some wonderful opportunities where they can get their names out to the world faster. There's some questions in the chat, but I just kind of want to kick off this by asking you, and just for everyone else, we kind of are transitioning to the next talk, and we're trying to get to the next talk maybe by 12:10, 12:15 at the very latest. So if you want to just like quickly bathroom break or like grab something, that would be a good time as we're kind of asking questions now. And so we can kind of return for the next talk. Anyway, so I'm just going to begin the questions by asking you, what if you're a teenager who maybe right now people know you for some things that are not so positive, right? And unfortunately, some of those things might have gotten on the internet, right? There are teenagers that already struggle with this. How would you advise teenagers to be able to kind of turn this reputation around? Like, because they might be feeling like the world is over. Oh my God, everybody knows now. I can assure you it's not, right? The internet never forgets what it forgives. So how would you advise people to turn reputations that they might not be really proud of around and kind of turn it into a more positive thing?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So what I'll say, and I'll give two different scenarios real quick. So let's say you already have a reputation that you don't like and you want to change it based on what it is or how bad it is. Let's start with that. Honestly, just start from one of the points that I shared earlier. By start to, first of all, thank God you repented. That's the first step, that's all the first step. And then now you decide on what your values are going to be going forward and start to share that or start to work on that. So let's say your reputation is that you're a bully. You bully everyone that comes across you, or you're very difficult to work with. And that's kind of the perception that's out there. Change it. Change it to whatever it is now that you want to be known for. And like I said, this is not the time to be false about it. Because sometimes people, how it is, sometimes some people are like something else behind the scenes and they present a different perception out there. I promise you it'll catch up to you if that's kind of what you do. It's just a matter of time. So make sure that you start to change the narrative by whatever it is that you now want to be known for. You don't want to be a bully anymore. If you can actually apologize to people that you bullied, that's one thing. And if you feel like, oh my God, I can't do that for whatever reason, then just start to start being kind, right? Start speaking against bullying because that's what you were known for before. If you have already a social media platform and everything, you can share that out there because people are drawn to authenticity. I promise you. And we talk about this, whether it's in business or in life or anything, people love storytelling. So you might want to share one or two things about what you've learned in your journey of you were this way before, and this is why you've now changed, and this is kind of what you stand for. That's one way. But if you're not online, you're not on social media, just start by making the correction within your community, your people that are around you. You don't have to necessarily go on the stage or take a trumpet and speaker and announce it, based on how big your platform is. So that's what I'll say. And over a period of time, it'll start to change, right? It'll start to change. People will start knowing you for the new you, the better and the best version of yourself.
Thank you so much. That was a really wonderful answer. I have two more questions. Well, more than two, but I'm kind of consolidating them because they're around the same theme. The first one is when you have a talent, but you are afraid, you feel fear of showcasing it. How are you able to kind of push past that fear, push past just the thought of judgment, the fear of judgment, and put it out there anyway?
Okay, so the first thing I'll say is that everyone feels some sort of fear. Let's just put it that way, right? So a lot of time when you're trying to do something that you've never done before or you're unsure, of course, it's normal and it's natural to be a little bit fearful or even have a little bit of anxiety about it. That's totally normal. So once you know that, and if you were to kind of talk to one of the most popular people that you think are the best public speakers, or people that you see online, or people that you see that are even in school doing, or just doing amazing things, if you were to have a one-on-one conversation with them, you'd be amazed that they will tell you that they actually go through some level of fear at every point in time. But the difference between them and for others is that they take action, even in the midst of the fear, right? So fear is a natural way to react to certain things, especially things that you're not comfortable or you're not familiar with, but that's totally fine. So I would encourage you to know that it's normal to be fearful, but still start working towards showcasing yourself. And I think something else I also like to share is that I talked about this earlier, that whatever gifts and skills that you were given, God gave it to you for a reason. You didn't pay for it. Think about it. Your natural gifts, you came with it. You didn't go to the store to buy it, or it wasn't because, God felt like, oh my gosh, Abigail is just so amazing. I'm just going to make her have a beautiful voice. No, you didn't pay for that. So you were given those gifts so you can make a difference in your generation because you're here for such a time like this, right? So because of that, when you think about the fact that you were given these gifts that you didn't pay for, and you're given these gifts for a reason, to help others, to make the world a better place, to make a difference, that should drive you the days that you feel a little bit scared to showcase what you're good at, right? Because if people that you're meant to serve, people that you're meant to help, if they don't know that you exist, they might be having sleepless nights, right? So I want to so that's what I'll advise, that number one, fear is normal. Feel it, embrace it, and be like, okay, I'm feeling a little scared right now. In fact, I'm feeling hot right now, but that's normal. I'll do it. Look for something, some affirmation that you can, whatever it is that you can say to yourself. If it's music, if you have a nice music, play it, pump yourself up a little bit, and go do it. After you do what you got to do, you can go back and being afraid if you have to, right? But you've done it. Does that make sense? And after a while, you start to get comfortable. It's kind of like when you want to start riding a bicycle for the first time. You might be scared that I'm going to fall down. I might have a bruise. You might shake a little bit, but after a while, yeah, you will fall sometimes, right? But after a period of time of practicing, you become better and better. And after a while, you don't even think about being afraid. When you get on a bike, you might not even start teaching other people how to not be scared to ride a bike because you did it, right? So so I hope that helps to answer that question.
Certainly. And the very last question, which is, how do I ignore bad things being said behind my back? Or how do I just avoid bad friends in general?
In general. Okay, so what I'll say, truth be told, is sometimes you can't control. You can't control what people are going to say about you. Let me just be very honest. You can't. So people are saying bad things about behind your back. Let's look at it in two different ways. The bad things they're saying about you, is it the truth? Because remember, like I said earlier, let's say if you're a bully or you're just not a kind person, right? Maybe people just know you for doing some of those habits that are not necessarily, that you're not proud of. And they're talking about that. That's still the truth. The bad thing said about you, but it's actually the reality. You now want to make sure that you change and you become a better person. So that way, when people talk about you, they're really talking about the good things that you do. So that's one way. The second thing is that if they're talking about bad things about you that is not true, you can't control that, right? And I want to encourage you not to be bothered about it. Yeah, as a teenager, as a youth, as a young person, even as an adult sometimes, I know it's hard to say, don't care about what people are saying about you, because we're wired to care as human beings, right? We're wired to care, let's just be honest. So, but just realize that because that's not the truth about who you are, that doesn't define who you are as a person. So don't get caught up with people that are negative, that just want to drag your name in the mud. Avoid them as much as you can and just stay focused on what your dreams are, your goals are in life, and start to attach yourself to friends that are good. Like the question about avoiding bad friends, it takes two to have a friend. If you don't talk to someone, they can't consider you a friend, right? A stranger cannot consider you a friend. So once you know what your values are and what you want to be known for, where you're going in life, what you want to accomplish in life, and like I talked about earlier, core values, it'll help you to attract people like that to yourself. If I know that I want to graduate from school, because my goal, there's some careers that you don't have to go to college for, I'll be very honest.